Hi, welcome to episode 7 of francofille Knits, a creative podcast. My name is Devin, and this is where I document my knitting, spinning, designing, and general making. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry at @bdevin. And on Ravelry, we've also got a podcast group. If you search under the groups tab for francofille Knits, you'll find us there. That's where I post the show notes, so if you've got any questions about anything I talk about during any episodes, definitely head over there. I've also got an introductions thread. Sorry, cat just jumped up in my peripheral vision. We've got an introductions thread, come say hi, and an ask me anything. And actually got a question on that this last week, so I'm going to talk about that I think towards the end of the episode. But yeah, please also make sure you're sharing your finished objects and things like that with the group, because I would love to see what you're working on. Sorry, she's sniffing around my show notes, so it's a little bit distracting. I've got a slightly different setup than normal right now. I'm using my laptop instead of my phone, and that's partly because Jordan, this may not seem very sweet to some people, but he actually got me a new microphone for Valentine's Day. It's kind of his way of showing his support for the podcast, so I'm excited. I'm trying it out. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, not really wearing any hand knits today. Not sure why, I'm just not. And nothing off. Little Layla here is starting to investigate. It was nap time, but she's since woken up. Let's see how curious she gets. This is Layla. But yeah, it's been a crazy week. So I haven't gotten the chance to really finish anything. I've gotten a little bit of knitting done, a little bit of spinning, but nothing crazy. Yeah. I will talk all about what's been keeping me from my knitting, again, towards the end. But yeah, so I'll just jump straight in, if she decides to let me, with what I've been working on. To start with what I made the least amount of progress on this week. Basically was just card knitting Monday. And a project bag I made. This is just a sock. Not quite a vanilla sock. You can see there. It's a patterned sock. I'm just having some fun with purl ridges and things like that, purl bumps, and playing around. Knitting it top down on just deep ends, nothing crazy. The yarn is Opal in the Little Prince on the Run colorway. So you can see it's got lots of bright blues, purples, yellows, and then some browns too. So kind of enjoying how it's knitting up. I was a little bit scared it would be way too much going on with the pattern and the colors, but I actually kind of like it. That's the back. There we go. Yeah, I mean, it's really nothing crazy, just kind of fun. Slightly more mentally engaging than a vanilla sock. But yeah, I'm using my Knit Picks wooden DPNs. I'll talk more about these later, because it has to do with a question that I got asked this week. But yeah, US 1.5, so I think that's a 2.5 millimeter needle. But yeah. Yeah, perfect car knitting, just engaging enough to not be boring, but you know, I can still hold on a conversation with Jordan while he drives, so that was pretty good. Other thing I got some work done on, but not very much, was version 2 of my Amboise shawl. Again, just in one of my little project bags here. It's growing, slowly but surely. This is dangerous. I keep leaving my work in the middle of a row. I'm gonna lose stitches, and it's lace. I should be smarter than that, but I'm not, apparently. So, given that it's a wrong side row too, sorry, apparently my computer is set up so it'll still go to its screensaver, even when I'm clearly recording using... I'll fix that later. Anyway, you can see I've made some, maybe from here you can see better, I've made some progress on here this last week. Where's my project keeper? Yeah. And I think that even may have gotten moved once since I last talked to you guys about this. But it's fun. I'm enjoying it still, which is good. I better be enjoying my own design. Yeah. I am knitting this out of... Where's the tag? I know I just saw it in here. There it is. Wool and Vine Yarns. On the narwhal base, colorway is Jilted Rose. You can see that's a wool, silk, and cashmere blend, which is a delight. All right, here's the cake I've got left. But yeah, it's gotten really fuzzy, but I'm not complaining. Yeah, just a really beautiful color. It's kind of an oatmeal beige color with just some pink added in to warm it up. Yeah, I'm really, really pleased with it. You can see that the lace stitches are showing up really nicely on this yarn too. Yeah, it's getting a little fuzzy in certain places, so not sure about that, but yeah. Thank you again. People keep reaching out about test knitting. Thank you. And I will definitely let you guys know about test knitting and things like that once I get closer to being done. But I was hoping to be further along by this point this week than I clearly am. But life happens, right? Life happens. If I were able to devote all of my time to knitting, maybe I could be done by now, but you know, I've got a job, I've got a volunteer position that took up a ton of time this last week. So yeah, we're still just making progress slowly but surely on that one. Needle adjacent. I actually don't even have my spinning anywhere near me. My hair in my face, but not my spinning. But I mean, really not a ton to even show you on that front either. So why am I even filming this week? That is an excellent question. Keep myself on schedule. Yeah. Drinking some chai tea. Giant mug. Definitely necessary today. It's just cold and gray and rainy. It's not even... I don't know. The weather's uninspiring. My workload has become uninspiring. I want to knit, but I've got some frustrating obligations I need to be dealing with instead, and some exciting ones too. There's some very exciting stuff going on. So, I mean, yeah, it's just, knitting has had to take a back seat. I'm trying to think what else to talk to you guys about. So, like I said, this volunteer position that I've got advising the sorority has taken up a ton of time, in part because I spent the weekend up in Lombard, Illinois, so it's a suburb of Chicago, really close to where I grew up, because we had our regional conference this weekend. So drove up from here up to Chicago, about a 4-hour drive, with a couple of the undergrads, a couple of the members of the sorority. We all carpooled up, and then, yeah, sat in at some breakout sessions, got a lot of really good information, had a lot of fun. We even won some awards as a chapter, which is really great. But yeah, it was 3 very long days, which I didn't even get to knit during really, because I had to drive and try and be a good example and pay attention. Because, well, you know, I'm sure you guys know that you can knit and pay attention and be just fine. I mean, especially depending on what you're knitting on. Most people, they see somebody knitting, they assume it's the same thing as like texting or playing a game on your phone, right? Like, you're just not mentally paying attention to whatever else you're doing. So given I'm supposed to be an advisor and an adult and responsible and things, I did my best to not knit. But yeah. I did, however, get a chance to sneak away on Friday and go check out a yarn store in my hometown that apparently has been there for like 12 years and I just had no idea about. And I don't remember if it was Allie or Abby from Get Lit Knit I was talking to about this, but I know one of them is also from the suburbs of Chicago, and they were talking about we were talking about what yarn stores we used to shop in when we were living in the suburbs. And I had to confess, it's a little embarrassing perhaps, but maybe not, no judgment, right? When I was in high school and like learning how to crochet, because I started with crocheting and not knitting, at least on the regular I was crocheting and not knitting. We shopped at Walmart for our yarn, and we basically just bought acrylic, like Red Heart or whatever it is, because we didn't know it was cheap and it was brightly colored and exciting, and that was good enough. So yeah, she on the other hand started at a real yarn store with real fibers and things like that, but I come from humble origins, what can I say, at least with my knitting. But yeah, anyway, I went to this yarn store in Glen Ellen where I grew up, called String Theory, and it is so cute. I was gonna go to Niche, the place in Downers Grove where I went over Christmas break, but by the time I was able to get away from the conference, Niche was already closed, so I still had about half an hour to squeak in and out of String Theory, and I'm glad I actually checked it out, because, well, first of all, I bought stuff. I have a very bad habit of basically buying yarn whenever I walk into a yarn store. I can't seem to say no. There's always something I want. There's always something just kind of calling out to me. Of course, then it just sits in my stash, so I could stand to be a little bit more mindful with my knitting purchases. But anyway, I bought some stuff that I'm excited about and that will hopefully be casting on in the next couple weeks. I want to get a couple things off my needles before I cast on a new project. I think I've got I need to think about this, but I really don't want to. I've currently got 3 pairs of socks on the needles, a pair of mitts, this shawl, and another shawl, all on the needles. Yep. I need to do some serious finishing before I cast anything else on. Because I've got like 5 more pairs of socks and a couple more shawls and even a sweater that I want to cast on, and not enough time, clearly, to be knitting on all of that. So, accountability buddies, don't let me cast on. If you see me posting pictures on Instagram of me having cast anything on, please leave me, I'd say nasty grams in the comments, but that might be a little intense, but kind of a stern reminder in the comments might be really helpful. I need to finish. I especially need to finish that embossed shawl. That needs to happen. But anyway, so I bought stuff for projects that I won't let myself cast on just yet. Including, and I'm gonna apologize preemptively for some crinkling, this awesome pack of mini skeins, more Wonderland yarns, just Frabjous fibers. Right. The randomness pack, very appropriate. Right. This is in the Cheshire, or on the Cheshire base, Cheshire Cat base. Thinking pairing these together. Yeah, it's gonna be good. I actually have 2 skeins now of this. Right, with this, and I want to cast on the Solaris shawl by Melanie Berg. Check it out. I'm gonna link it. You definitely need to see this shawl. It is gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Super excited about it. And I need to hold off. I'm not somebody who tends to be motivated by things in the future. I'm definitely a one marshmallow kind of kid. This is a famous psych study, maybe you guys have heard of. I can't remember who did it, but essentially you sit down a small child, like a kindergarten-aged child in front of like a plate that has a single marshmallow on it. And you tell them that, you know, they can either have this one marshmallow now, or if they wait, you'll bring them a second marshmallow. And then the experimenter goes and, you know, leaves them by themselves in a room for, I think, like 15 or 20 minutes, something like that, which is an eternity to a 5-year-old. And some kids eat the marshmallow right away, and some kids will wait. I am not a waiter. I will eat that one marshmallow and be very satisfied. Yeah, so I'm going to have to force myself to wait for my second marshmallow to actually finish what I'm doing, wait on casting on this Solaris shawl. So I will actually get to enjoy knitting on it and not feel guilty for knitting on it because I've got other whips that are turning into UFOs. Oh, it's going to take all of the strength I have. How sad is that? But it really is going to take, like, all of the strength I have. Anyway, I have digressed far enough on that. I also got this skein, which is String Theory hand-dyed yarn, hand-dyed in Maine. It's an MCN, right? So, merino, cashmere, nylon blend. Right, you can see it's really closer to a sport than a fingering weight. But it is so soft. It is the Beach Plum colorway. Just is really nice. Yeah. Blue, tonal blue color. It's a little bit grayer, or even more purpley in person than it is shown up here. But again, I might use this as the edging for the Amboise shawl, this version of it, right? Because I love the combination of these two colors together. Right, this for me, this is my happy place. Right, getting an nice oatmeal-y color with like a gray blue. I love it. So, yeah, I'm excited for this. So I did purchase something with a specific plan for current project. So that's good, right? I needed this. The justifications we make to ourselves, right? I'm just gonna put that right in here too, so I don't forget about that. And then also got this. I love gray yarn. Right? I feel like gray does not get enough love. Yeah, this is showing up a little bit bluer right now. I'm gonna have to go and edit levels when I'm working on editing the video. But this is La Jolla yarn, maybe, or by yarn, La Jolla base, maybe. Not sure. Really don't know. Colorway is Gray Onyx. And again, same weight as the previous one that I got. It's 100% superwash merino. And I'm thinking I might pair this with my skein of Stardust from Hue Loco. Right? I think that'll be really nice together. Do another shawl. Apparently I just can't have enough shawls in my life. But yeah. And then they also had, get a little close there. I've actually never had a Lolo bar before, but they had them. There you go, you can actually call a store if you'd like. String Theory Yarn Company. Actually had them there. And I got the spiced fig colorway scent, right? And it kind of smells like, I don't know, grown-up Christmas, if that makes sense. It's not real piney, but more, I don't know how to quite put my fingers on it. It's kind of a wintry autumnal sort of scent. Very spicy, really, really nice. And it really, I mean, it does a great job of moisturizing. It doesn't feel greasy afterwards like some solid lotions can. It actually absorbs well, so really big fan. Yeah, that was the purchases I made. What else? I think that's all I've actually actively accomplished this week, including, purchasing things. That's an accomplishment, right? Yes, other things. So, sorry, I'm just gonna get totally comfortable on my couch right now. So I've talked to you guys a little bit about my friend Kelly, my colleague who recently started learning how to knit and has no fear whatsoever with her knitting. It's kind of great. She's just like, I'm gonna make that. That's gonna be amazing. This is what I want, and just launches herself into it. It's kind of amazing. So yeah, she started knitting. I want to say we're at maybe a month now, like about a month ago. She's already finished a couple things. She's gotten really good at reading patterns and all that, and she's decided a month in that she wants to tackle a lace shawl. Which, sure, yeah, absolutely, I will encourage that 100%. And so she's picked out the Campside Shawl by Alicia Plummer. I think that's how you say her name. Notes. Which was in Pom Pom Quarterly, I want to say in September of last year, or maybe 2014. I don't know. I don't remember. It's free on Ravelry, which again, part of what drew Kelly to it, no lie. Which I feel like is totally legit for new knitters to focus first on free patterns, Why invest more money in it than you have to if you're still just trying things out? I don't know. That's my opinion. Everyone's entitled to their own, right? This is a pattern that has been sitting in my queue on Ravelry forever and ever. But I don't know. I haven't gotten around to knitting it, and she wants me to knit it with her. Sorry, I don't know why I'm gesturing with my marker at you. That's kind of rude. She wants me to knit it with her, but I have no idea what I'm going to knit it out of, because it calls for 700 yards of DK weight yarn, and I do not have 700 yards of DK weight yarn in my stash. And as you've just seen, I have indulged in a bit of wool piggery over the last week. Yeah, including picking up the second skein of this just yesterday so I could do the Solaris eventually. And another skein of yarn for a yarn swap, so not even for myself. But, yeah, side note, I'm doing the, what is she calling it? Mina of the Knitting Expat has organized like this big international expat yarn swap, which I'm super excited about. I got matched up with Madeline, whose Ravelry name, wow, I'm going on a complete tangent. I'm going to talk about the swap in a minute. Let me focus on my original story. I will talk about that in a second though. But, all over the place right now, guys. Apologize about it. Oh, it just totally fled my mind. Right, I have no DK weight yarn in my stash, is the problem, and it calls for 700 yards of DK weight. And I've already been spending a lot of money on yarn. Like, let's be honest, we all know this stuff doesn't come super cheap necessarily. So, I'm thinking I may, because I do want to knit along with her, and I want, in part because I want to be able to help her with the charts. I think being able to read charts is a really important skill as a knitter, at least to me. I've found that, especially when I'm doing anything like lace or cables, I'm far more successful in my knitting if I read the chart instead of the written out pattern. Because I am somebody who hates to measure and count. Right? I rely heavily on stitch markers. My mind wanders. It happens. Again, sorry about that cut there. I'm really not good at using this webcam on my computer instead of my phone. I went to wake it back up from going into the screensaver and accidentally clicked something and it just ended the recording I was on. So, lots of extra editing this week. I really apologize, guys. I've got next to no knitting to show you and there's tons of random cuts. Poor Mina has just, of Knitting X-Pac just gave me this epic, really sweet shout out this morning. And my first episode afterwards is really not my finest. Good job. Good job, Devin. But anyway, what I was saying was, oh, yes. So I'm gonna do this campfire, I keep calling it campfire shawl. It's a campside shawl. With Kelly. Don't have the yarn in my stash, but I'm thinking I'm gonna use either a worsted weight yarn, because I've got some of that in my stash, or maybe scale it down to a sport weight. And just kind of play around and see how it goes from there, because it's a big shawl for DK weight. So I could see it working just fine out of sport weight yarn. I don't think that would make it too small to use. If I go up to worsted, I may have to cut back a couple rows. Or just have a giant shawl. I don't have many of those. That could actually be nice. We'll see. I'll keep you guys posted, obviously. But again, that's something else that is going to have to wait. I need to finish some other stuff. Right, that's what I was also talking about, the importance of being able to read charts. So I'm wanting to do this with her so I can teach her how to read charts, because I think they're absolutely vital. Yeah, absolutely vital. Charts and stitch markers are really the only way I get through lacing cables. It's really, really crucial. And then the last thing that I'm hoping to cast on and take part in is the Waiting for Rain shawl by Sylvia Bobivia, which is just the coolest shawl. Semicircular garter stitch with lace inset, like short row lace. Really, really cool. Really cool, really cool. Who was it? Somebody on my Instagram, it was Joy on my Instagram feed, cast this on, I want to say about a month ago now. And she says it's a really great pattern, lots of fun, just looks amazing. And then I think it's Kristen from Vine, or Yarngasm is her podcast, is going to do a knit along for this shawl. I want to say she's starting at the beginning of March. Hoping so. But I really, really want to knit that one too. So, not quite sure what I'd knit that one out of, because again, I think it calls for a heftier yardage than most shawls. Let's say it's either the 600 or 800 yards. I can't remember. It's 800, because I remember doing the math on various stuff I have in my stash. And I can do it. I'll find stuff. That one's going to happen. Okay, so moving on to questions and then a little bit of blather. Pash T on Ravelry asked in the Ask Away thread on the Ravelry group, basically if I had any recommendations for beginner patterns, my favorite sock techniques, and my favorite needles. So beginner patterns, it depends on what you want to make. But if we're looking specifically at socks, I've got two recipes that I really like, that I've kind of looked at and adapted for my own use. But yeah, those would be I hope I've got the names right. The Knitmore girls have a sock recipe on Ravelry that is awesome. And then again, Kristen from Vine, from Yarngasm. Her Ravelry name is Vine. That's also her line of yarn. She's also got a really great vanilla sock recipe. And I think, sorry, it's barely snowing now. It was 60 degrees out 2 days ago, and now it's snowing and gray and sad. I hate February. Coming back to what's important. Yeah, I would say they follow those two recipes for socks. Are very similar to my personal vanilla sock recipe, which I've never really bothered to write up. It's based fairly heavily, actually, on the Knitmore Girls sock. And it's very similar to Kristen's too. But you know, everybody makes their own little tweaks. And if I was smart, I would have grabbed a plain vanilla sock, but I didn't. I'll pull this one out. Pull this one back out. So, I like to knit my socks cuff down. I used to knit them, when I started knitting socks, I started out knitting them toe up, which is great, right? There's really nothing wrong with knitting them toe up. Some people prefer it. For my feet and the way I knit, they don't tend to fit quite as well, but I think that's just me. I don't think that's anything necessarily with toe-up socks. But I taught myself how to knit socks out of Socks from the Toe Up. This is by Wendy Johnson. And it's a really phenomenal book. I really cannot recommend it enough. It's got beautiful pictures, really clear diagrams. Right, like that's phenomenal. Right, she gives patterned socks and vanilla socks. In here talks about various types of heels. I mean, it's really just a great resource if you want to knit socks from the toe up. Okay. The reason I knit my socks from the cuff down instead of from the toe up is because, like I mentioned before, I hate counting and I hate measuring. And the way that comes into play with sock knitting is that it means I have to try on my socks a lot more frequently to know, when do I start, if I was going toe up, when do I start heel increases, when do I get that gusset going, going cuff down, when do I have to start doing my decreases for my toe, things like that. I don't really try on or worry about the length of the leg of the sock anymore. I really don't like as long a leg as most people do. Most recipes and patterns call for at least 6 inches. I usually only go maybe 4.5, 5 inches, and that's for a longer leg on my socks. I don't know. I mean, when I'm buying commercial socks, I like ankle socks the best. I don't tend to get long or high socks. But yeah, I also really hate knitting ribbing. Really, really do. I had to force myself to knit that much ribbing, and it's maybe an inch. Maybe an inch and a quarter. I mean, it's really very little. But it works. I like a 1x1 rib. I think it's stretchier than a 2x2. But that could just be completely in my head. Really got very little to base that off of. And then the stitch count really depends on what size needles I'm using. I like knitting on 1.5s. So that 2.5 millimeter. Is that what I wrote down? Yeah, 2.5 millimeter needles. They are my favorites in terms of size. I think I cast on, I want to say these are 68 stitches. really anywhere from 64 to 68 is going to give me a comfortable sock, depending on whether or not there's pattern or not. Actually, I think that's 64 because I don't even remember. That's, I mean, really where I'm at. Clearly this is a pattern I'm just playing around with. I'm not even planning on writing up or anything like that. I don't really have a preference per se for knitting on DPNs or circular needles. I really like knitting magic loop, and I like my DPNs. I am a little bit picky about the brand that I use though for my needles. For my DPNs, I've got a set of Knit Picks DPNs, right? Which are phenomenal. You can tell that, I didn't get fully into my story of why I quit knitting toe up. So you'll see that this package is not full anymore. I got this many years ago. By many, I mean like maybe 4 or 5. Some of these are because things are on the needles. Some of these, though, I think it was maybe my size 1s. It's either my size 1s or my size 2.5s. I was knitting toe up, following a recipe from that book, and I was trying on the sock to figure out when to start the heel increases. And yeah, I don't know exactly what I did wrong, but I broke one of the needles as I was like trying to try on the sock. And just got so fed up, so mad at myself for it that I was just like, nope, never again. Never gonna knit a toe up sock. I wish it was a better reason than that, but yeah. It is one of the perils of knitting on wooden DPNs. If you're trying your stuff on, they can break on you. I think I may have lost another one of these from also like not paying attention to what I was doing, setting my knitting on the couch and then sitting down later and sitting on it. A little embarrassing, but I don't know. I feel the need to be honest with you guys. I feel like I'm not the only person in the world that's happened to. But yeah, other than that, if I'm doing magic loop, I'd have to say these are probably my favorites. Addy Turbo Lace or Addy Turbo Sock Rockets. Either one, really. Love these. With super long cord. Alright, you can see that here. I mean, the cord does have a little memory to it, which can get a little frustrating and fiddly. But it's really not that bad. There are definitely worse ones out there, but they are nice and pointy without being too pointy. Right, they don't hurt too bad if you're making adjustments as you knit. Yeah. But yeah, I really do equally use DPNs and Magic Loop for my sock knitting. The Addy Turbos are a little bit more pricey, but they're really, I don't know, I think they're worth it. I've got other stuff. I've got a pair of Chagos here. These are size 2 US. I've never used. It's a little bit bigger than I like for socks. But I've heard good things. It's sitting there. Other than that, for my normal everyday knitting, my non-sock knitting really, I much prefer using interchangeables, circular needles to straight needles. And I really like the Knit Picks interchangeables. I've got the nickel ones here. Ooh, sorry about that. I just got a text message and my computer decided to ding about it. Mute that. But yeah, they're great workhorse kinds of needles. They're not terribly expensive as far as interchangeable DPN sets go. They're not the cheapest ones, but they're not the most expensive by any stretch of the imagination. You can usually get this set for about $45. And it goes from 4 to 11, right? You get a wide range. It comes with a bunch of cables, and I personally like the nickel ones better than, or the nickel coated ones better than the wooden ones. I've also got a set of the wooden ones from maybe 2009. That sounds about right. I can't remember. A long time ago. That I got, I think, around the time when they first started selling the interchangeable sets. And the wood has come out of the metal base. So, which is really frustrating, especially when you're knitting, to have just your needle pop right out. I have heard that they're good about replacing them, but I don't know, I've never really bothered to contact them about it. That's really more on me than anybody else, but there's that. But yeah, I really like Knit Picks needles, especially the metal ones. I do have, I'm staring right at them, and I'm hoping this isn't going to make a ton of noise. But let's see. Sorry if that made a ton of noise. I do have a ton of straight needles here, and I'm just going to keep my hand on them so they don't move too much. Honestly, I use them as decoration. I got them from my grandmother, except for the wooden ones and the bamboo ones. Right, those were mine when I started, but those metal ones all came from my grandmother. I've tried knitting on them, try and, reconnect with grandma, but it gets heavy, and really uncomfortable on my wrists when I knit on straight needles instead of on circular needles. I think something about having the working, or the rest of your knitting sitting in your lap instead of off to the side, right? And it's not weighing on your wrist the same way as it would with straight needles. Yeah, it's just way more comfortable, and I can knit for a lot longer on circular needles than I can on straight needles. So, and I know I've heard other people say the same thing. I think that's a fairly common experience. So, definitely recommend circular needles. I really like interchangeables. I think they're easier to keep organized. Also, I think it's really convenient to not have to buy multiple lengths of the same size needle, right? So I don't need 5 sets of US 2s with different length cables, right? So that's really why I like the interchangeables instead of fixed circulars, though I do use those for my sock knitting. Yeah. What else? I hope that answered your question, Passion. Yeah, if it didn't, let me know, and I will be sure to follow up with you. No idea. Sorry. Notifications are popping up, and I don't even know where to begin. Anyway. On to blather and other exciting things. I apologize for the crypticness last week, but our exciting news, I'm super thrilled to be able to share with you guys now, is that Jordan actually got a tenure track position. So like I've mentioned before, Jordan and I are both academics. We're both professors at, I don't know if I've ever said, but it's at IU, Indiana University. And we've been, okay, so for most people who aren't aware, and why would you be, there's actually, not all professors are created equal. At least not all levels of professor. There are tenure track and non-tenure track, tenured, non-tenured, and then other levels there too. So tenure basically means you're set. You've got a job for life, basically, unless you do something to seriously screw up. Usually those are things like ethical breaches, like serious misconduct kind of stuff, or, God forbid, your department or your university goes under. Really, those are the ways you would end up losing a job as a tenured faculty member. And that happens eventually, but you have to be hired tenure track in order to get to that point, right? If you get a tenure track job, you're sort of in this probationary period for anywhere from 5 to 10 years. I think the average is usually about 7, but it depends department to department, college to college, university to university, how they run that. The requirements you have to get tenure, you have to apply for it. You've got a huge packet of things you submit. Anyway, Jordan and I have been trying for the last 5 years to get a tenure track position. We both are part-time, or at least non-permanent faculty members at the various schools we worked at. So I'm an adjunct at IU, which means that my contract gets renewed every semester, and I may not be teaching the same number of courses or things like that. It also means like I don't get benefits through my work. My stuff is very unstable, relatively speaking. I actually don't have a contract as an adjunct faculty member. There's like a verbal agreement that I will be teaching, but there's no paperwork. So I've only got one class this semester. Last semester I had 2. So, I mean, from last semester, right, which ended in December till January when this semester started, my pay got cut in half, right? But it's really just based on whatever the department is able to give me. Jordan, on the other hand, has been a visiting assistant professor. So his contract is yearly. He actually has a real contract, and he has, a set number of courses he'll be teaching. He gets benefits. He's considered full-time, but he's non-permanent. So we have benefits, but we get them through his job. But yeah, as you can imagine, this is really not something that we really want going on long term, right? We've been trying for tenure track, more permanent, stable jobs for the last 5 years. We started when we were still working on our dissertations, and then even after, once we got our PhDs 2 years ago now. But yeah, Jordan got a tenure track job, so we are going to be moving up to northern Indiana to a school about 2.5, 3 hours north of us, and we are so excited. It really is just a really big deal for us. Yeah, it's really great. We have no idea whether or not I'm going to be teaching or anything like that, but I mean, even that's all secondary. Really just. And we went, so Monday, yes, I know my days of the week. Monday, we actually drove up to the town the college is in. We went and visited the campus, got to walk around and explore a little bit, and it's really just the cutest, nicest little school. It's a small school, but I like small schools. I did my undergraduate work at a small school out in Pennsylvania. I've taught at a couple schools, that are smaller. I taught at a school that only had 650 students, right? Like, I'm on board with small schools. Jordan's not used to that, but he's excited about it too. I've been kind of explaining to him why they're so great. But yeah, so we went and checked that out, and we're starting the process of looking for houses, which is really kind of crazy. We had no idea we'd be looking for houses at this point. But we are, and we found a couple that we like. We're getting that whole situation figured out. We're going to be talking to banks and mortgage brokers and get the whole mortgage thing figured out. Like, I feel like an actual adult, just even using the word mortgage. That sounds scary and full of responsibility. But yeah, so super excited. We're going to be moving over the summer. And yeah, I've got various ideas of what I might end up doing. Maybe I'll be teaching, maybe I won't be. I've got some ideas of what I want to do if I don't end up teaching. But yeah, lots of changes coming, lots of excitement, all of these good things. So yeah. Jordan was so funny. We were at a realtor on Monday. Just popped our head in just to see what it was. We've never bought a house. We've never done this. We've always rented. Because things had been so unstable. We never knew where we're going to be 1 year to the next. So it didn't make sense to buy a house. But anyway, yeah, we popped our head into a realtor and we're looking at some of the listings, and there was one in town that was like, you bought the entire building, but it was like 2 apartments upstairs, and then downstairs was a store. It was like, you could have a yarn store. Wouldn't that be cool? In my mind, I'm just like, that would be amazing. Really not at the point where I would even know where to begin doing that, but that would be really cool. So I'm not going to be opening up a yarn store. I'm not. But yeah, we're excited. What else is going on? My birthday's coming up in a couple weeks. I think I've mentioned that. And Jordan has been having fun contributing to the podcast in his own way. He thinks knitting is kind of ridiculous. He enjoys it. I do it. He doesn't understand it, though. He's got no interest in learning how to do it himself. He's got his own hobbies. But I mentioned, it was that I was trying to figure out how to film myself knitting for that tag that was going around Instagram a while ago. I'm gonna have to cut one more time. There's somebody knocking at our front door. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. A package came for Jordan. It's that time of day, I guess. But yeah, like I was saying, Jordan is showing his support for the podcast and all that. With the microphone I said that he got me for Valentine's Day. I'm hoping that makes a difference. But then he also got me this new little toy that I'm really excited about. He got me a little Polaroid cube, which is really cool. It's a little video camera you control with your phone. It's got, it takes a micro SD card. It's got this little magnetic base, and the idea is I'm going to use this to make tutorials. So he came up with this idea after he watched me struggle to figure out how to film myself knitting using my phone. It was awkward. It wasn't great. I got the job done. I posted it to Instagram. But he was just laughing at me the entire time. He's just like, we're going to find a better way for this to happen. So he did some research. We talked about GoPros versus this. We decided this was a better option for me and what I want to do. Sorry, I'm laughing at the rig that I've created for doing this, but yeah, because for knitting new tutorials, it's easiest if you can actually see what the person is doing. So, I was so excited about this. He gave this to me last night, even though my birthday's not for another 3 weeks. He was excited too. And I couldn't use it last night, at least not for that, because again, didn't have a rig for it, right? It's just a little cube. Like literally I think it's called the Polaroid Cube Plus or something. Yeah, it's adorable. Look at the little stripes. It's my new little buddy. But I made myself a little thing so that you guys can watch me knit. This is how ridiculous I've gotten. I'm sure there are easier ways to do this, but this is what makes sense in my mind, so I'm excited about it. I went to Menards this morning, got myself some safety goggles and a washer and a little magnet. It works. I know I could probably figure out some sort of contraption with a tripod and an actual video camera, but I don't think we actually have a camera that does video, now that I'm thinking about it. So, that wouldn't work. I know people have various different solutions. I'm excited about this. This is going to be good. So I actually tried it out last night by, again, some honesty. I can't believe I'm actually admitting this. I kind of bit down on this a little bit, put it between my lips and was holding on to it to record myself knitting, and I can't believe I just admitted that. But anyway, put that up on Instagram last night, so I've got a little shot of me doing a knit one, purl one into a double yarn over, which is something I use in that shawl pattern. I'm excited to see how this turns out. Because tutorials are really something I've been wanting to do for a while now. I think it's maybe the professor in me. I've got information and I want to be able to share it with people. And I know tutorials would have been really useful to me as I was learning how to read patterns, right? Especially things with more complicated stitches than just knitting and purling, figuring out what's the best way to do a yarn over, or, you know, I guess slip, slip, knit versus slip one, knit one, pass this stitch over, right? Like, you end up with, I want to say it's those two. Yeah, you end up with the same kind of decrease, right, in terms of the way that it's, the direction it's going in, but, right, talking about the difference there. Yeah. I don't know. I'm excited. I'm gonna be making some tutorials, and you now know the secret to how I'm doing it with my awesome goggles and my little camera buddy. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be good. I promise it's gonna be good. Yeah. Goggles, super glue, and a washer, and my exciting little camera. I'm so excited about this. I really, really am. Yeah. I'm gonna have to figure out how to do, like, narration, like, voiceover style and everything. It's gonna be a whole new set of skills for me. Yeah. So that's everything that's been going on in my world. At least anything even remotely podcast or knitting related that you might possibly be interested in. Other than that, I am going to knit tonight with a friend, with Kelly. So hopefully I'll get some more work done on that shawl. Or maybe I'll bring the socks. I'll bring something. And I will keep you guys posted with everything else. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram if you want updates on what I'm working on or things like that. I tend to be fairly active on there. And don't forget to join the Ravelry group. Again, francofille knits. Just search on the groups tab. And subscribe if you're interested. Yeah, I think I've gone on quite long enough. I'll see you guys next week. That did not actually end it.